war is hell, but war games are fun as hell. We're going to go over some of the differences between these different versions of Axis and Allies, so keep watching. Hey everybody, Bob from the Board Game Rundown here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the top 5 differences between Axis and Allies versions that I have played. So I've played quite a few versions of Axis and Allies. The 1942 edition is probably the one I've played the most. It's the one you can play online if you play there. In the Battle of the Bulge is the one that I recently just did a review for. It's the newest one, the newest reprint they just came out with. And there's some pretty big differences between the two, and I thought I'd break them down for you. So the first thing I'll say is in the standard version, like I call it standard, 1942, the game can pretty much go on forever because you have victory conditions where you have to have so many cities at the end of the full round, and if until somebody has that many, you keep going, and so it could take literally forever if nobody's aggressive enough or lucky enough to take those cities and hold them the entire round. Whereas in the Battle of the Bulge, either the Axis is going to hit their 24 victory points worth of cities, or 8 rounds are going to go by. And after 8 rounds goes by, the game is called for the Allies, because by that point they're getting more supplies and reinforcements where the Axis couldn't keep up with it. And so the game is called after 8 rounds. So that's pretty big difference there, and one worth pointing out, because some people might be intimidated with a game that might take forever to play, whereas you can bang Battle the Bulge out in 2 to maybe 3 hours if you play quickly enough. There's a little bit of fiddliness, which we'll get into with it, that kind of slows it down some, but yeah, that's a big difference. Number 4. So the number 4 thing is on the Battle of Bulge, there is a literal front line. So a lot of times when we're playing 1942 and you're pushing your German troops back against Russia, and you're trying to kind of hold them back, and you got this kind of wall of guys and tanks and stuff, and you're like, that's the line. It's where it's at, because it's where you're trying to hold everybody back from. When you're playing Battle of the Bulge, you're literally using these pieces of hex to encompass all the territory that you control. And so everything behind that line belongs to the Axis. Everything on the other side is Allies. And once you're done with all of your combat, moving, reinforcing, the line gets updated, and you can literally see the Axis control moving across the board, which is super interesting. Like I really enjoyed that. When it kind of also leads into, whereas these are more countries and territories, this has hexes. So yes, you're trying to control these certain cities, but it's all hex based. The movement is hex based, along with there are roads that you can travel along. But that whole map with the line being pushed down these hexes as opposed to the countries and stuff, it's pretty big. The third big one that I wanted to point out is the supply tokens. So in the kind of base version here, you're moving your dudes, you're moving your tanks, all your planes are flying everywhere. And what are your guys eating? They have infinite bullets in those guns? How those tanks never run out of gas? Maybe they're EV tanks? I don't know. But in the Battle of the Bulge, you have these supply tokens, and in order to do attacks or to do any kind of movements, you have to spend supplies from your hex or an adjacent hex that's on your side of your previously mentioned line in order to activate that hex to get it to attack. So basically you're putting gas in those tanks. You're giving your dude some bullets and saying, go attack over there. And so having to then later on use the trucks, the new unit that they don't have, you're using those supply trucks to get those supplies to your front line so that you can keep those units moving forward to accomplish your goals. And you don't have to worry about that in the 1942 edition, which is nice because it's one less thing to kind of worry about when there's so much of literally world combat going on that you're trying to, keep an eye on and watch everything, that, having to worry about the supplies too would make it take even longer. But the fact that you're concentrating on this one battle here and you're trying to make sure your guys, have those supplies to keep them moving through, this, I believe it was winter weather, and it was bad weather, which is why the surprise attack, worked at first. But then once the weather cleared up, well, we know how it ends. But yeah, I thought that the supply trucks, along with those tokens to get your units to move and then make the attacks, was a very big difference that I did enjoy. And it made this more, I don't want to say simplified version, but a shrunken down, more concentrated game have another aspect to it that I was not expecting. Brings me down to number 2. Number 2 is going to be the reinforcements and the deployment. So in the base version, you get all your money, you buy all your units at the start of your turn, you take your turn, combat, non-combat, movement, and then boom, deploy. All your stuff goes to where you have a factory, and that's how you do it. You can buy whatever you want. If you want to be Russia and try to buy battleships and bombers, have at it. Good luck. But it is definitely an option. Whereas in the Battle of the Bulge, what you get and where it goes is preset. So the Axis is going to get 1 card, and it's got 3 sections on the board: 7th Army, 5th Panzer, and the 6th Panzer. And depending on what turn it is, they'll get certain amounts and certain types of troops deployed in that furthest hex back in the appropriate space. And then you got to spend supplies or use your trucks to move your supplies, artilleries, and guys up to that front line so that they can keep pushing. So that's what you get. And then when it comes to the Allies, they have 3 of these cards. They have 1 for the North, 1 for the South, and then 1 for the West. And then they, on certain turns, which is something to keep in mind, because they don't all get something every turn. I'm looking at this one as a bad example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're getting everything in the first 6 turns. But this other one here I'm looking at is 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So supplies and stuff will come in from different sides at different times, but it's already pre-planned out. This is what you get. This is when you get it. And then one of the nice things for the Allies, at least, is when the planes do come into effect on turn 5, you get your, I think it's 11. I should have looked. I didn't look at it again. But I think it's like 11 planes. Even if they get shot down next turn, you get those save 11 planes back. You're not paying your $10 or $12 to buy and replace those planes. You just get them each time. I think that kind of just signifies that they kept sending planes over, and they were able to get here, whereas the troops and stuff takes a little bit longer. You're putting them on the board, you're driving them across the board, but the planes can just make it there because this territory is really not that big of an area. And yeah, the Axis, unfortunately, they only get 1 bomber and 3 planes, and so they get tore up pretty bad once the Allied aircraft show up. But that is a huge difference for me. That's one of my favorite things about the 1942 version is, and the Anniversary Edition also kind of falls into this box too, because it's a very similar type of play style. Is just being funny with it. It's like, you know what? Yeah, Russia's there, but let's make a bunch of ships and try to take Britain first. Just kind of doing silly stuff like that. I always like trying to think outside the box, take turns that maybe not be the most optimal, but it's like, let's risk it for the biscuit. Let's try something different and new. And so that creativity is fun out of this one. Whereas this one, it's a very strict. And so I worry that maybe after, I've played this hundreds of times. So maybe after 20, 50, 60 plays of getting the same units each time, maybe it starts to feel a little samey. So I do worry a little bit about that. But as of right now, I only haven't played it a couple times. I find it interesting to try to find the best way to use my very limited resources and where's the best way to go about them. And that is going to bring me already to number 1. Man, this video is going pretty quick. But that's the way it goes sometimes, I guess. But the biggest difference is got to be the combat, right? We play war games because we like to attack our friends, right? That's why we play war games. That's why I play war games. I like to try to devise strategies. I like attacking my friends, rubbing their face in that die roll. The stand up excitement, like yes, as you roll like the couple of hits you needed to clear out the last units they had, sitting somewhere. Like those types of moments are great, right? It's just that's the main reason why I play these types of games. And the combat systems are holy cow different, right? So in a lot of the earlier versions of Axis and Allies, the Anniversary Edition, all those kinds, one country would take all of their turns, they declare all of their attacks, and then they would start choosing where they want to go and start resolving them. The attackers roll their d6 dice. Certain units hit on a certain number or lower. Hits are then assigned, but then all the defenders get to roll their defense dice. Their hits get assigned. All the hit units go away. And then you can retreat or you can press, and you keep going with that same kind of a system where the attacker and the defending are just hitting each other until either one side's left standing or until somebody retreats. And then with d6 dice, like I said, the Battle of the Bulge is way different, right? So other than the first round, so in the first turn it was a sneak attack. So the only one doing the attacking is the axes, and they the way the combat works is you're going to choose a hex that you want to attack with, and then you're going to have to choose what hexes you want to attack. So if you're going to choose like one hex, you spend one supply. If you want to try to split those forces and attack two different hexes at the same time, you'll spend two supplies, because you have to basically, you're going to take your supply token, you're going to flip it over to the arrow side and put it over the like hex line saying which way they're attacking. And then when you go to attack, you're going to pull out. They have this little system here. So depending on what the defender has, so if the defender has 3 infantry, 2 tanks, let's go 2, 1, and 1 artillery, and they've got some supplies there. So then I would roll all of my dice, which normally in a normal one, like every unit's going to get a die, but just what they hit on, right? So I have 4 infantry here. They're going to hit, they're attacking, so they're rolling out a 1, right? Like, oh, they got some artillery there supporting them. They attack a little stronger, what have you. Oh, these are my tanks. I got 6 at 3, roll my 6, try to get 3 or less. That's how that combat works here. On this one, everybody rolls d12s instead of d6s, and the number of dice you get depends on what unit you get, because it doesn't matter who's rolling, hits are 6 or less. So it doesn't matter if it's a guy, an artillery, or a tank. When you roll an attack die, 6 or less is going to hit. And so infantry gives you 1 die each, tanks give you 2 dice, and artillery give you 3 dice. So you pick up all the dice that you have that you're rolling with, and you're going to roll them all. And then I'm going to flip some of these and make them better hits, just for so I can show you how it would play out. And so let's say this is my combat roll. These are the units that are defending. So they have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different units. Even though there might be a stack of like 6 supply tokens there, it's only 1 log. So it's just you're either hitting the supplies or you're not. And the way the hits will get distributed is, so here's my 1. That's a hit. It's going to go on the 1. Here's a 2. My 2 will go on the 2. It's going to count down 1, 2. Then it starts back at the tanks, 3. Then it goes to the artillery, and then it just kind of counts down that strip. And then when you get to the bottom of the strip, you go to the next strip, and then you start at the top, and then you start counting down, and then so on and so forth. Then when you get to the end, so since the supply is 5, then the 6 is going to loop back to the beginning and be back on the infantry again, right? So I have a 3 that would hit a tank. I have a 4, which hits an artillery. I didn't get any, that's fine. 5, I didn't get any supplies. Let's say this one was a 5. And so I hit a supply, and then the 6 would go back to this infantry. So, and the reason that this kind of matters is that there's a stacking limit. So I'm sure you guys have played the original like Axis and Allies, and you're thinking about attacking Russia, but there's like 3 red chips and a infantry, and then there's like a bunch of just stuff there defending it. These hexes have a stacking limit. You can only have 12 units max in a single hex. And that is further limited by 6 infantry, 6 tanks, 3 artilleries. That's the max of any specific unit you can have in a hex at a time. So each unit then also takes 2 hits to be killed. So this first guy here, he would have taken 2 hits, he would have died, he would have been removed from the map. But then this other artillery, the other infantry, the tank, and the artillery all each had 1 hit. They would then have to retreat. And they have to retreat to a hex where the other team does not threaten, because if you have a unit on the board, it threatens all the spaces around it, so you can't retreat to any of those threatened spaces. You would have to retreat to a spot that is not threatened. And then for each hit on these supplies, 1 supply token would be removed from that space as you blow up that barrel of oil, and now it's no longer usable by any side, which you don't want to do too much of, because your main goal is hopefully to take that territory and commandeer those supplies, then they become yours, which is kind of like, I'm not sure if a lot of you have played Scythe by Stonemaier Games, but that's one of the unique things about them, is where a lot of the resources, or all the resources, stay on the board, and you can go do combat in that area, kill off the units there, and then take control of all those resources. They become yours. It's very similar to this. You can attack a space, get rid of those units, move into that space, and then you commandeer any trucks that are left over and any supplies that are left over. They become yours to use until they're either taken back or used up. And that is super cool. I do like that. But no, I found this combat system confusing at first. I was trying to read it in the book. It didn't make a lot of sense, but then we just started playing, putting the dice out. Okay, now it's making sense. I see what's going on. And they do a unique thing to where, like I was saying, there's a stacking limit of 12. So if they've got, a boatload of units out here, well, if I'm only hitting on a 6 or lower, then I would never, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would literally never get past that second tank on this spot over here. So all these other things would be safe. So the way they handle that is you would just, if there's more than 6 defending units, you roll all your attacks, you count up the number of hits, and then you re-roll those dice, and that's what you're going to assign it to hit. Since there's a max of 12 units, then you have a chance of hitting anything on the board. So you would re-roll those hits and count out, okay, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I guess I still had too many things out here past 12. But that would be my 11. And then 10 would be this guy, and my 5, and so on and so forth, right? So you would assign the hits that way in that kind of a combat. So very, 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 very different from the original version. What else did I have on here? And the other thing is, other than the first round where the Axis, they are the only ones attacking. They attack, and then that's it for that round once they're done doing their attacks. After that, it's back and forth. And like I was talking to Mike, it's kind of like Star Wars Unlimited. So there's been a lot of new TCG games kind of coming out, and one of the things I appreciated about the Star Wars Unlimited game is you're both kind of in that main phase together, and instead of one person doing all their actions and then the other person doing all of their actions, there's a back and forth. And so once you get to the combat phase and the second turn on, you roll for initiative, and then whoever goes first is going to choose a hex they want to do their attack from, do the attacks they want from that hex, but then the other side gets to choose a hex and attack from that hex, and then you take turns going back and forth. And so you don't just have one side doing all of theirs and the other side doing all of theirs. And that back and forth makes it super interesting, because it's like, man, do I use this big force here and try to take that out, or do I attack somewhere else and give him the opportunity maybe of thinning that out, and so now it's not so strong of an attack the next time I go back there? And weighing those options is interesting, and I really enjoy doing that. So that's something that, again, is very different from these, whereas, okay, Russia takes their turn, there's all their attacks done, do all their moves done, boom, their whole turn is done. Okay, Germany, you're up, buy your units, deploy, declare your combat phases, finish all your combats, do all your movement, do your non-combat movements, and then, deploy all your guys. That's a very kind of straightforward, you're taking all their turns, but this back and forth is a very interesting take on how to resolve that combat. And I really did find that interesting as we were playing through this. So other than that, I guess I was going to kind of throw out maybe a few of the similarities. The minis. So one of the things that I really love about Axis and Allies is these pieces, right? Like the artilleries, the tanks, the dudes, the planes, and how they're close to being accurate as to the actual types of planes that they had. I think it was like a Spitfire, and the other one there, I can't remember the name of it now. I'm a bad historian. But like I think that's super interesting how they kind of do those types of things, and the quality of these little pieces are really good. And they did include the plastic chips. Super grateful for that. I really dislike it when I go to punch a new version of Axis and Allies, and there's just like little cardboard, because some of the cardboard is super thin. Like this guy here is really thin. It's almost I mean it's poster board, I guess you could say. I wouldn't even call it cardboard. But the fact that they kept the chips is good. Like there's no money, and that's something I've kind of dinged on some other Axis and Allies games where, yeah, you got to keep track of your IPCs on a separate piece of paper. Really, just throw some paper money in there. It's not that bad, right? It's not that much. But these chips kind of make it. Like they're perfect size. They stack really nice. They don't slide around, and like your dudes fit right in that circle perfectly. So it makes it really easy to. I guess that'd be too many people. That breaks the stacking limit. Sorry. But it's really easy to keep them there and move them around. And I really appreciate these plastic chips that they kept those in there. These containers are mine. They didn't come with the game. They do have an insert that comes with the box that you can throw stuff into, and you can probably keep it in bags if you want. But these are definitely different. This is what you're using to track your front line. Other similarities is the fun. Come on, right? Like I'm saying, I like sneak attacking, hitting somebody where they didn't expect it, building up forces here, think I'm going to be coming over here, and then moving everything over to another spot. Like just all that kind of stuff, the tactical strategy. I love that kind of stuff. So that is still in this version, which is super appreciated. Yeah, that's probably going to be pretty much it. They even come with some player aids in this one. I guess I didn't mention that. The other ones don't really have a whole lot of player aids. Sometimes they have like on the board, right? They print out the how much units cost and their limits and whatnot. These weren't great. They were okay. I did end up putting the die value totals on there myself, right? So infantry 1 die, tanks 2 die, artillery's 3, and then the stacking limit, it does say to enforce the stacking limit, but then they don't tell you what it is. So I wrote that on there myself, just because I don't mind writing on my games. If it's my game and I'm going to keep it, I'm going to make it the best version it can be, right? So whether I have to alter it to help with color blindness or put notes on boards to make things easier to teach, I'm going to do it, and you shouldn't be afraid to do it either. Other than that, though, that's the thing all I have for you on the Axis and Allies warfront there. So until I get a chance to try out the North Africa campaign, this has been the Board Game Rundown. I've been Bob, and thanks for watching.